Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the members of the media and our analyst friends and some members of the SM Group. Let me just read something quite important that just happened after the organizational meeting today. The Board of Directors of SM Investments Corporation announced key organizational changes that will support the company's next phase of growth. The board has already conferred this afternoon upon Mr. Henry C. Sr. the role of Chairman Emeritus in recognition of his role as the founder of SM and all of its core businesses. Mr. C., who is a multi-awarded entrepreneur and philanthropist, opened the first Shoe Mart store in 1958, a business now simply known as SM. As we all know, Mr. C is the dreamer, the visionary, the entrepreneur par excellence, and the father of Philippine retail. In his place as chairman of the board has appointed Mr. Jose Ticio as our new chairman. Mr. Shaw was the chief financial officer of SM for 26 years and was highly instrumental in supporting the phenomenal growth of SM and its subsidiaries. He instilled really strict financial discipline across all businesses that later helped the company achieve optimal results, even as the whole group maintained a sound and stable financial position. Mr. Shaw was a senior partner at SGV and Company prior to joining SM on November 1990. We also have new members of the board, which include Mr. Frederick Dibuncio and Mr. Alfredo Pascual, who is not with us at the moment, and Mr. Pascual replaces Mr. Adulim as independent director of SM. Mr. Dibuncio brings with him a wealth of experience in banking, where he spent over 20 years with JP Morgan Chase and its predecessor companies. He was assigned to various places apart from the Philippines, such as New York, Seoul, Bangkok, and Hong Kong, and held various executive positions where he gained substantial professional experience in the areas of credit, relationship management and origination, investment banking, capital markets, and general management. Mr. Alfredo Pascual, on the other hand, just completed his 6-year term as president of the University of the Philippines. Prior to his involvement in the academe, he worked at the Asian Development Bank for 19 years in such positions as Director of Private Sector Operations, Director for Infrastructure Finance, and Advisor for Public-Private Partnership. Mr. Pascual was also among the pioneers in investment banking in the Philippines, having held positions in State Investment House, First Metro Investments, Philippine Capital Corporation, which is now known as RCBC Capital, and Bancom Development Corporation, which eventually merged with Union Bank. We also have some management change to announce. Mr. Ricky Dibuncio will now also assume the role of president of SM Investments in place of Mr. Harley C. Congratulations, Ricky. Mr. Harley C. will remain as executive director of the board. Mr. Dibuncio joined SM in 2011 as senior vice president and eventually as executive vice president, handling the company's portfolio investments. This portfolio has since grown to include Bell Corporation, Atlas Mining, the Net Buildings, City Malls, My Town, and most recently To Go. So Ricky has been really busy. These changes affirm the continuing role of professionals in executing the larger vision of SM while further strengthening the group's good governance and sustainability practices. So those are our two major announcements for this afternoon, and I'm sure you're quite eager to ask a few questions, so I'll now give the floor to our panelists.
Hi, sir. What will be the new thrust of the thrust of the new management. Mr. Dubuncio has been with the portfolio businesses. Does it mean we'll see SMIC actively looking for new businesses outside of banking, property, and retailing?
I think as far as the SM Investments is concerned, right? I mean, the three core businesses of the group, like you said, banking, property, and retail, will continue to be the core business of the group. I mean, each of those companies under those groups are really, on their own rights already of size, and they have a lot of very strong professional management as well. So, but they will continue to be the core businesses of the group in general. We will continue to support them. But at the same time, we will continue to look at opportunities as they come up in the market, particularly for businesses which could be complementary to the other parts of the group. But it does not mean that it's going to be a big thrust of the SM group. It's going to be still a very small percentage of the total resources for the group, because the core will still be the core going forward.
Do you have, can you discuss more about your e-commerce strategy on top of the existing platform that you have with Lazada? And are there plans to, since SM bought into To Go, the logistics company, do you see synergies moving forward? And how would you deal with potential opportunities and challenges from e-commerce?
Okay, before I answer that question, I just want to add what Ricky has commented of where SM is going, let's say in the next 5 years. If you look at the horizon, where the Philippine economy is going, to my mind, Philippine economy is still the darling of the Southeast Asia simply because of two reasons. First is the call center. Second is the OFW. That two special position of the Philippines make it, have a better economic growth vis-a-vis with its neighboring countries. But if you look at the call center and the OFW, that should not be a long-term policy of a government, because OFW has its cost, referring to the social cost to our country, to the family. On the other hand, the call center could be changed, could change any time by new technology, could be changed by any time by the decision of President Trump. So we then look at where the Philippine economy is going. We have infrastructure, which we are lagging behind the neighboring countries, and where our present government is putting more emphasis, infrastructure. The second one is the energy. So energy is also an area that should be looked upon. And then maybe the third one will continue is because of our 100 million population, of which the average age is about 23, 24. It's a young population. And therefore, I hope, that in the future, the OFW that we send out may be of a professional level OFW. That way, we could have more, they could generate more income for the country. So I think aside from our main three course area of property, banking, and retail, will be infrastructure, energy, and an industry that can complement of what our three core business has. Now, to answer your question now is, what's your question now? E-commerce. the e-commerce, yeah, I agree. You look at China, you look at the U.S. If you look at what's happening in China, and happening in the U.S., e-commerce is now taking place in a big way. But our economy is not yet at that stage. No, our economy is at that stage. We have problem. The e-commerce may have problem on delivery. The e-commerce may have problem on security. The e-commerce may have problem on the province. Maybe in the cities, pwede, marami tayong mga cellphone. But in the province, wala pa yan. So I'm saying, the e-commerce may not be here for some time. Yeah. It may take some time to develop that. Having said that, we are preparing ourselves. Our retail is preparing, and simply one of the preparation that we have is this to go. This is the delivery portion and the collection portion. Yeah? So the next thing will be we are ready to go into that next stage, meaning we, SM, but it's the market that is not yet ready. Maybe 10% of our population can do it, but majority of our population and our infrastructure is not yet ready. So that will be my answer to your question.
Since you mentioned energy, for a long time, we've been waiting for you to fold in. Well, it's not yet folded into SMIC, some of the group's interest in energy. Will you finally do it?
Which one? Chevron?
Yeah, and some other energy-related businesses.
I think that's something which we need to evaluate further. But definitely, it's one other area which we know the country really needs, and it's something which is good for the economy. But whether we're going to fold it into SMIC at this point is something which we still need to evaluate.
Just clarification and for my own education, with the appointment of Mr. Dibuncio as president, I'm just curious, like at the SM Investments level, are there still any family members of the C family who is still handling management position, or this is it complete? No, nobody's involved anymore at the management level, at the SM Investments level.
Oh, I guess we should not lose track that Mr. Dibuncio appointment, and in fact my appointment, is an indication, Jeffrey Lim appointment and so on, is an indication that the family would like also to professionalize the management of the SM Group in preparation of the future. Now, having said that, your question is there any C family in the management? Of course, in SM Investment. Of course, the SM Investment in the board level, C family will be there. In the executive committee, of SM Investment executive committee, the C family will also be there. And I guess we should recognize and accept that the C family has already earned the trust and the confidence, not only within the SM group of people, but the entire business community. And they are a very important component of the SM growth and the future of SMIC. If you are aware, we have an office in the Locsin building, and we are also preparing the third generation. The third generation, we have a family office, and the third generation is more or less now immersed with the SM group, and we are preparing for them to take the leadership position in the near future.
Jomar Lacson from ATR Asset Management. I have three questions on the businesses and the one question on ESG. First question is actually on, it's perfect for Mr. Dibuncio, no, because he was handling a portfolio, no, but on the portfolio investments such as Bell in particular, where we are minority shareholders, can you give us like some clarity on sort of like where the long-term strategy is for the company? I know that we are invested in gaming, which has been blossoming in recent months, and which makes us happy. However, the assets of Bell is much larger than that. There are property assets as well. So you just want to know since we're in it, if we're buying, what long-term strategy are we buying? If you can just add some clarity to it, if there is a long-term strategy or at this point.
I think, as you know, Bell is really invested in the sort of high-end luxury entertainment. We do still have the properties in Tagaytay Highlands. There's still around approximately 800 hectares of undeveloped land there. So there's still room to grow in terms of developing the Highlands estate area. But the biggest growth area of Bell at the moment is more on the gaming side. No? We do collect rent from City of Dreams, which is a big regular cash flow, and that there's an increase every year. And more importantly is the share from Premium Leisure. No? So I think as far as Bell is concerned, there are three growth areas, right? One is the organic growth, annual increase from the regular growth of, let's say, the gaming space. And we've seen that grow year on year compared to since COD opened. And then secondly, Bell also still owns some properties here in Entertainment City that we're looking at possible ways to sort of see what we can do to sort of add and create value for those properties, which is very close to where COD is as well. And obviously, you know, we stay close. We have very good relationship with our partners there, Melco Crown, and we're staying in close contact with them in terms of other potential opportunities for growth, even in the gaming space, if and when PAGCOR does issue new licenses, for example.
Okay, thank you. My second question is timed also with your tagline, innovating for a better tomorrow. So on the innovation part, what's the view of SM as far as technology is concerned? Sort of related to Doris's question on e-commerce, but obviously technology is beyond just retail. So, I mean, how do you view technology at this point? Which model do you think the Philippines will emerge? Would it be an American model or a mainland China kind of model? And I think Mr. Shaw had mentioned that you're preparing, but how do you prepare for this, for the technology? Is it through a VC kind of approach, wherein you're trying to nurture technology here, homegrown, or through acquisitions and partnerships?
As innovation is concerned, SM is definitely taking a very close look at innovation, and we are looking at all fronts, from the marketing side to data analytics to e-commerce and other areas. So in fact, we're right in the midst of hiring people now to do to set up a data analytics group. And we are also looking for to formulate a digital strategy for the company. We are already studying maybe the possible use of public cloud services to use those services for some of our requirements instead of just relying on our own servers, because there seem to be compelling reasons to start using that. Although we're at the early stages of doing that, but I think the process will not take very long to convert. So we are very actively looking at all fronts as far as the innovation area is concerned. And of course, e-commerce, we're trying to figure out a strategy for that. Well, I'm not saying we're going to get into it, but at least we're studying our options there.
An update on first quarter for the retail side. I mean, if you could just give us an idea of how same-store sales growth was for SM Retail.
Jomar, just give us 9 more days. 2 more weeks, because we will be disclosing our results on the 10th of May.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we cannot disclose anything.
Can you give us an idea on the changes since you started monitoring? I mean, has there been, for us, ESG is an important aspect of our investment philosophy. So, has there been an improvement, apart from the programs that have been existing, has there been an impact in, say, carbon emissions for the malls? Has that been reduced? Yeah.
Jomar, can you speak louder, please? It's hard to hear
sorry.
you.
On the ESG front, I was wondering if you could just make a comment on changes. Not necessarily on the new programs, but old programs, have they been effective? If you've been monitoring, say, carbon emissions, has that been going down?
Yes, definitely. Actually, as far as sustainability is concerned, especially on the property side, they have expanded the coverage. Before, it was just the malls. This time, they have expanded the coverage to all different sectors of the property business, so which includes residential, commercial, and hotels and conventions. So they're actually trying to achieve higher standards like LEED certifications, greater conservation programs, and disaster resilience programs. Retail has also done a lot more, and Video Foundation and China Bank. The whole group is active in terms of expanding the coverage of sustainability practices.
Okay. Just a sort of small follow-up on that. I noticed that SM Aura has a LEED certification. Do you plan to actually put that certification in all the other major malls?
Mr. Jeffrey Lim is here, so maybe he can answer your question.
Well, we have started with Aura, it being an office tower and a shopping center. In the Mall of Asia complex, we're trying to work on a LEED certification for one of our buildings here. I think it's a 3 Ecom, right? Yeah. So we will continue to evaluate the need for that in the different locations that we're in.
About mining, you have some investments in that industry. May I get your insights moving forward on what you plan to do in that industry?
We do have investments in Atlas Mining. We view this as a long-term investment. We know that mining is a cyclical business, so we've invested in this a few years back, and we're taking a long-term view here to basically go with the cycle for the commodity markets.
Okay, other questions? Yes, Ian?
Get on record. SM Prime said yesterday that for this year and next year, they'll be spending a total of 100 billion pesos for capex. For SM Investments, what will be the total capex for 2017 and 2018?
Most of our capital outlay would, on a brick and mortar basis, actually is coming from retail. And retail typically would average spend about 4 to 6 billion a year in terms of their capex. However, a larger chunk of the capital expenditure, if you will call it that way, would be on the acquisitions and or investments in other companies, which Ricky is spearheading. Unfortunately, we couldn't give you a number as to how much we would be spending on those, simply because some of those are opportunistic, and we still don't know exactly what will come our way.
My question relates to your results last year, like 8%. I'd like to know your take on the 8%. Was it something that was within your expectation, the 8%? And this year, it looks like you're in the sectors that are really going to make better results this year, like banking and net interest income are rising, wider NIM, and then property. SM Prime yesterday shared their earnings guidance, sort of like an idea of, they're saying they guided for like mid-teens growth this year, and gaming is also upbeat. the Chinese are coming in, and your retail, of course, is going strong. So would the earnings picture be a lot better than the 8% last year? If you can share with us a view or a sense of.
We, as a matter of principle, we actually don't give forward-looking guidance on our earnings, specifically because we do have some businesses that are not as firm or not as I would say not as stable, in a sense that take, for example, movements in retail. Retail could have good months and some bad months, and overall it depends on the overall conditions of the country. Now, let me just say that the 8% that we grew last year came on the back of strong property contribution. So if you look at our contribution to our earnings, 40% is coming from, nearly 40% is coming from property. The banks would normally contribute about 38, and then retail would contribute around 22%. So the banking BDO last year, which is our largest bank holding, only grew about 2% last year. So a big chunk of our earnings grew on a slightly lower basis. However, you know, we have the property group that is just as predictable and as constant because of the recurring flows in the property group. Retail, we had good year last year because in some respects we've got we took advantage of the wave of election money being poured into the economy, and we had strong performance, especially in the first half, and that was discussed with you and the analysts as we explained our results last year. However, this year we'll have to wait and see, and maybe in a couple of weeks' time we'll see the first quarter. But I would not look at retail on a quarter-on-quarter basis. I think what we should look into would be the historical performance of the group and how the group is able to what you call this, keep up or keep ahead of the trends in retail. And I must say that the proposition of retail business that we have today, following the merger of the retail affiliates, would give us a much stronger footing moving forward into the future. So I think we should look at retail, the proposition in terms of the portfolio and the potential of the portfolio in the context of the growing Philippine economy.
The mindset that I should be having would be that of an optimistic scenario for this year. I would tend to have that mindset. And would you agree with that kind of?
I would say we would always maintain a cautious optimism in the business because, yes, while we're optimistic that there are quite a number of things that are favorable, especially the overall economic or the economic growth potential of the Philippines. That's very positive for us. But at the same time, there are risks. There are inherent risks in each of our businesses, in property and in retail and in banking. So we would always maintain a cautious optimism kind of outlook.
Thank you, sir. Sir, ma'am, just one last question. As to the contribution, do you expect property to still maintain a big portion of the contribution, or would there be changes like the bank becoming more prominent qualitatively only?
I think that if you're referring to the percentage of income contribution to the total of the group, yes, property will continue to be the biggest contributor to the whole total income of the group. Are you an analyst or are you a analyst? Because when you look at the growth, to me, we should not only look at the percentage of growth. Rather, we should look at the absolute amount of the growth. You know, a good example will be economy in the U.S. They are big, right? But then if you talk of 2% growth, that's already acceptable to them because it's big. So in the Philippines, we say 7%, 6% growth. No? But the absolute amount is, compared to the US, is very small. So I guess if you look at the growth, it should not only be look at the percentage, but also the absolute amount of the amount. Because as we grow bigger, the percentage will decrease, but the absolute amount will increase. Having said that, I would think that for this year, we will have a single-digit growth. How much is that? We still have to monitor this thing, as we go along. Would that be enough for you?
I'm so happy with your answer, Mr. Shaw.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, sirs. Bim Santos from Bloomberg TV Philippines. So just wanted to ask with the organizational changes, will this also affect your foreign expansion strategy? Like there was mentioned earlier about Mr. Shaw of looking more in infrastructure and energy opportunities. Are these also areas that you're looking at beyond the Philippines?
I think in yesterday's stockholder meeting of the property group, SM Prime, it's disclosed, no? That we would be looking on, the property group would be looking on and study the possibility of growing beyond the Philippine in China market. But it has to be studied carefully because aside from the economic denominator and determining the investment, the geopolitical scenario right now is very volatile. You have Trump, you have North Korea, and then you have Russia, and then you have, of course, the Philippines. So it's very volatile that any investment beyond the Philippines has to be studied carefully.
A follow-up to that, Ms. C. Coson earlier said property and some of the portfolio business could be brought to the overseas market and looking at your portfolio investments because real estate you have already brought to China. So could you elaborate on which portfolio investments you think you can bring to overseas markets and why?
So you are lucky to have spoken to Stacy Coson. I think you got the answer, no? You got the answer of what she's talking about, property and what did you say? Portfolio. Yeah. Yeah, portfolio is, as I said, as we said here, portfolio, it has to be something, we're looking a growth industry. We are looking investment, the management factor of that investment. No? It has to be a management that has, we are on the same level, same wavelength of management principle. And then you have to determine the investment portfolio out there. As I said, we have to be careful at the present time of what's happening out there. So there is no specific industry as of now. Yeah.
Yes, Ian. Ian, please use the mic.
The group acquired 61% of My Town, tama ba? The dormitory operator, and now that that company has a strong partner in SM, I'm wondering, like, will this mean that with SM investment on board and in control of that company, do you intend to accelerate the expansion of this venture, and what's the prospect for growth for dormitories in the Philippines? Is it a market that you feel still underserved and with plenty of room to grow? Second, what's the hurdle for competition coming into this sector? The threat of competitors coming into this sector and, pose strong competition against SM in this area. Yeah.
Well, first, I don't know if the 61%, I don't know where did you get that figure, but I don't think, yeah, hardly there will be there.
Yes, hi. On the My Town project, we believe in the business model, and we believe in the management. So we are just doing this on a trial basis. Now, how far we can take it, it's very new, so we will still have to analyze and look at the potential. In terms of competition, there's always competition, but there's also opportunities. So we see it as something that we can take it further once we're convinced with the returns. Oh, there are 3 small buildings. Square meter floor area, land area is about 300 to about 1,100. And they're low rise. They're just like 5 floors and 10 floors. In short, this is still a very small project, but it's a business model that we're after. Again, it's basically an asset play. Well, it has assets there, and we see the recurring income. So at least that's what we'd like to see.
Benzon from Nikkei. Good afternoon. You mentioned about energy and infrastructure. On the infrastructure space, I think you've proposed a tollway project with DPWH. How about the initiatives on the energy space? What are the upcoming initiatives?
When I say we are interested in investment, I don't just refer to an equity investment. Your investment could come in the equity or financing. So I guess our banks, energy, our banks, both BDO and China Bank, is looking on the financing portion of these industries.
Was there for the 3 of you, was there a specific mandate from the C family or the siblings on what you're supposed to do over the next maybe few years as the new senior management team of the country's most valuable company?
Was there a mandate for what?
Was there a specific mandate that were given to you by the C family members or the siblings?
The mandate from the C family, I guess, make it grow, increase the shareholder value, and be happy.
In case you didn't know, Mr. Shaw is their adopted son, brother, the eldest brother. Okay, any other questions? Final question from anyone? No more. By the way, we gave you some DVDs. It's really just in commemoration of the life of Mr. C. That was the musical that was shown during the 50th anniversary of SM, and I hope you enjoy watching it. So if there are no more questions, can we just give a round of applause to our new chairman and our new president, Mr. Jose Shaw and Mr. Ricky Dibuncio. And thank you very much for coming today.